Transforming Trauma podcast. Transforming Trauma is presented by the Complex Trauma Training Center. I'm your host, Emily Ruth, and I'm so glad you've joined us today. Licensed mental health professionals, we warmly invite you to join our Spring 2026 NARM Therapist Training, a live online immersion into the transformative power of the neuroaffective relational model. This advanced clinical training is designed specifically for those seeking to deepen their expertise in healing complex trauma while offering the accessibility of an online format. From January to August 2026, you'll be part of a supportive virtual community of learners integrating mindfulness and clinical expertise. Through 4 comprehensive modules, you'll gain specialized trauma-informed knowledge and skills to confidently and compassionately address the impacts of adverse childhood experiences and complex trauma. Together, we'll explore how to support the resolution of attachment, developmental, relational, cultural, and intergenerational trauma using a neurobiologically informed approach that promotes post-traumatic growth. Embodying professional and personal growth, you'll become a catalyst for transformation in your practice and community. Enrollment is now open for licensed psychotherapists, counselors, social workers, psychologists, and other mental health professionals, as well as graduate trainees and interns working toward licensure. Visit complextraumatrainingcenter.com to learn more and secure your spot in this online training opportunity. And now for our interview. Brad Kammer is the founder and director of the Complex Trauma Training Center. Brad is a licensed psychotherapist, educator, consultant, executive producer of the Transforming Trauma podcast, and co-author of the Practical Guide for Healing Developmental Trauma. Brad is a senior trainer for NARM therapist and NARM master therapist trainings and mentors NARM therapists. Brad also developed and teaches the SPACE program, an inner development program of support and self-discovery for therapists. Please enjoy my conversation with Brad Kammer. All right. Today I'm joined by Brad Kammer, good friend and mentor of mine. Welcome to Transforming Trauma, Brad.
Oh, that's a sweet way to be introduced. Yeah. I love that. Much more important than all the formal stuff. And I'm happy to be back with you, Emily.
Yeah, great. I always love these year-end recaps. We get to kind of look back through the podcast and share, what really stood out to each other.
Yeah. And part of our intention is we really, as an organization, as a community, like to be transparent. And so it's fun to kind of lift the hood and talk about why we invited these people and what we were hoping for, and then the impact of having them on and hearing from our community, or just how it felt for us to kind of learn from them and connect with them. So that's part of what we'd like to just kind of share here in the group.
Cool. I'm excited. This is always it feels like a gift at the end of the year. Get to unwrap and hear what's alive for each of us. Pretty fun. Cool. So here at the end of 2025, how do you want to do this? Do you want to go in chronological order? Do you want to just kind of what came up for you?
Yeah, let's just kind of go with the flow. And maybe I'll start with you actually this time. It's just is there an episode or a conversation that kind of has stuck with you that you'd like to kind of reflect on a little bit?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this. What I've really loved is the mix that we've had of both NARM trained therapists and then folks outside of that training community. So it's been really fun to both hear insights from my colleagues, from people that I've been in trainings with, and the retreat, other activities that we've done together. And so I think I would love to actually start with our first, Lisa Gillispie, because when I was going back through the list, she said something that really landed for me and has stuck with me all year. She said that therapists don't heal through perfection, we heal through presence. And that feels like a really important theme for me this year.
Yeah. Well, this is great timing because Lisa and I just came off of a training this weekend, and Lisa's been training to become a NARM teacher with us, and it's been so exciting she was actually the first active coaching I ever did in a group. So she was the therapist. And for those of you that don't know active coaching, it's kind of the way we learn the skills in the NARM training, the way we teach and practice the skills, where we'll have a therapist, we'll have a client, and then one of the teachers will be what we call the active coach, helping guide the therapist. And I couldn't have asked for a better person to start with because she's so open and not only does she take feedback well, she like uses it to support herself and get curious and grow and learn. And so it's, she's such a great model for how we bring this work into the world with our clients. And now she's becoming a teacher and mentor for so many people. So yeah, great way to start the year, having Lisa and you have that conversation.
Yeah, and we have some, like, shared, history or, like, similar life experiences, and so it's cool. She's, further down the road in her NARM training than me, so it's just fun to kind of think about, yeah, these are things that I have to look forward to. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then, that makes me think about the origin stories we did, because I was thinking about this origin story about Lisa and I connecting. Actually, Lisa and I connected before that training where I was teaching in somatic experiencing and she was in one of the classes I was in. And so we connected there first. And then I don't know exactly how she chose to come into NARM from there, but she knew me at least a little bit. And so our origin story goes back even before NARM. But yeah, so me, Stephanie, and Marcia did our kind of senior faculty origin stories. And I've known them for a long time now, and I learned so much new, and just kind of having them walk us through their journey from childhood to all the experiences that shaped them and kind of created interest in human nature and psychology, and then their early professional experiences, their mentors, the trainings they took, and then what shaped them to be interested in NARM, and then from NARM, kind of creating the center that we've created over the last couple of years and where we're going in this next stage of our career. That was super fun to do. And again, a lot of learning. And it was good for me too, to reflect back on some of the key points. We don't spend that much time often thinking about that. So that was really fun exercise for me too.
Yeah, and really fun for me as a listener and someone in conversation to, like, get to ask all these questions. It's really great.
Yeah. I still love, Stephanie's experiences of having that therapist when she was 8 or 9 years old with the pipe, and how she now has this really positive emotional association with pipe smoke, which is
Yeah.
funny because, again, I have my own association where my father used to have a study and he would do research and he would be smoking his pipe when I was young. And so just interesting, these kind of things that stick with us through these years and have different associations. Some are positive, some are more painful, but fun to learn more about each other. And I just love what we're trying to do on the podcast, is like pulling back. I know not every professional is comfortable doing this, but a lot of people who come on the Transforming Trauma are willing to kind of pull back from their expertise kind of mode. A lot of people have written books or teach or are pretty influential in in their careers, and their willingness to share with you mostly about um, their humanity and the lessons along the way, the mistakes they've made that have kind of impacted and shaped them. And we had a few big names this year. Dick Schwartz, the creator of IFS, was on, and I really enjoyed Mark Vicente, the filmmaker who created or was part of that kind of cult, I guess, and has done a lot of work on narcissism and his journey from being this really successful Hollywood kind of filmmaker to now exploring these very difficult patterns within psychology, and him being so vulnerable about sharing, um, this really painful, traumatic experience that he went through and how he's using that for positive. I love hearing the humanity that goes behind some of this great work that is being brought into the world.
Mhm. Yeah, it feels really important, when someone is so public in the way that he is, and he's willing to show that vulnerability and really bring his personal experience, to all of us to learn from. It was really impactful for me too, I know.
hmm And then I know you were talking about like people that you've connected with in the trainings. Were there other people beyond Lisa that you enjoyed having conversations with or learning more about from our NARM therapist community?
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know, I don't wanna choose anyone because they're all so great,
Yeah.
but, I know that my conversation with Karen Eyrig,
Mm.
was really, really special and sweet, and, we had known each other. We're actually locally, we live within 10 minutes of each other, so that's fun to be connected, but to have that conversation and, go into territory that we're not generally talking about when we get together for lunch or whatever. It was really special. It was really sweet to see that side of her, and clinically too, like her talking about how she weaves that into the work was really important for me.
Yeah, Karen has so much, she's a therapist that has so much artistic and creativity in her bones and in her soul, and I love how she brings that into her work and into our community, and yeah, it's nice that she's your friend that you get to have lunch with too.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah, it's
cool.
great. Yeah, very cool. I'm lucky. Um, how about you? Who else would you kind of name? You had a few interviews, a few conversations that I'm curious to hear your.
Yeah, well, in terms of like, people within our community, again, it is hard to choose, but I really enjoyed, I think it was your conversation with Caleb
Mhm.
McNaughton. And I came into a somatic experiencing training when I was still in graduate school. I got a grant from the state of Vermont where I lived and was going to graduate school at the time. And I wouldn't have been able to do a training like that because of the financial, challenges of being a grad student, having a newborn baby. And I am so grateful that I came into this professional training. I always tell this story, but like when I went in to do one of my first breakout groups in the somatic experiencing training, there I was paired with a therapist who had been a therapist longer than I was alive. She had been a therapist for like 35 years, and I was 30 years old or whatever at the time. And just like being able to learn in that environment. And the funny thing is, I think people like me were picking it up quicker than people like her because there was a lot of unlearning for people that had been in the field long. And Larry was my teacher, Larry Heller, the creator of NARM. And, I think he saw in me kind of being able to have more of that beginner's mind. And so, hearing from Caleb about his experiences, unfortunately, some of his teachers have not been so open to that and have felt challenged by him bringing NARM into his graduate program. And I know that exists too, and that's unfortunate. But it's also just really cool for him and to think of other people who are early in their career, graduate students or internships or trainees, to be able to get these really important models that they're not getting in graduate school anymore. And I love knowing that they're going to have that foundation to bring into their career early.
Yeah, I really appreciated that conversation too, and it made me think back to my training because I was also in graduate
Oh,
school
that's
when I took the
great.
NARM training, and how much that supported me because I felt like I was behind in some way, like, oh, I should already know all these things. And I remember you mentioned in the training that those of us who are really new and green and fresh in the field, that we are able to kind of access that beginner's mind because we are legitimately a beginner. So that's I remember that being really helpful to hear you say that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, models like NARM are pretty challenging for people that have been working in certain ways, for a while. Um, and of course, there's huge benefits of someone who has more experience, more experience clinically. But it is fun to hear, and I like how Caleb's so passionate about it and has been bringing it to all of his peers and fellow students. And I'm just a champion for bringing this kind of work into graduate programs and supervision. So that people can get it earlier. And because it's not evidence based, that makes it tricky for many programs. And I get the whole politics and stuff about it, but it's fun to know when it's getting out there. So
Mhm,
I enjoyed that a lot.
mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Anyone else that's kind of jumping out at you that you
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about the conversation with Alex White and Sabrina Ness,
Mhm.
those 2 together, which is funny. I had a conversation with Sabrina after, and I'll say this because she said it in our conversation. She said, "People might not know how Alex and I are connected." So they have a friendship, and that's why we brought them onto the podcast together. So one of the things that I remember was said was that NARM gives us a way to be with clients and not to do something to them. And I think that's really valuable to remember. And so that really stuck out at me, that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's been really fun working with them. They live in Utah, and we're actually bringing an arm therapist training to Utah next year, which you'll be part of, which will
Mhm.
be really fun. And it's going to be a hybrid training, so which means we'll get to be in person, and we also have people online, and we're getting pretty comfortable with that kind of setup at this point. And I just love being able to be back kind of in person for these trainings and knowing how wonderful Sabrina and Alex are as people. They'll be bringing probably a lot of their colleagues and friends into the training, so I'm sure it's going to be a really dynamic group. Um,
Yeah. Well, and since you're bringing up the Utah training, we've got Kelly Cook as well. So her
yeah,
episode just aired, and very excited to be in Utah, and she's local to that area. And so her episode, that conversation about how she's using NARM in the school system, and she's actually exited the school system now. I maybe should mention that because when we had that conversation, she was still working in the school system, but really interesting to hear the ways that the district supported her in getting the NARM training, and then how she was able to utilize that and really build the team that she had was really sweet and special, just to kind of see the trickle down of how NARM is impacting so many folks, including all these kids in a school system that Kelly Cook was able to work with.
Yeah, it's great when we have people like that on because they're sharing how to kind of take this framework and use it in more creative ways. You know, because generally the training's set up to work with adults and to work one on one. But I know a lot of people work with couples and relationships and family therapy, group
Mhm.
therapy, kids, addiction, eating disorders. So there's people that are coming in that have all these different ways of working, and it's fun to hear about how people are taking this clinical framework and applying it in different ways. And in some frameworks, you have to be really creative. You know, if you're working in prison systems or criminal justice and stuff, there's different ways you have to kind of adapt a clinical model, a depthful clinical model like NARM. But I'm always interested to hear how people are taking the model and evolving it. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was cool to learn about that. It also makes
Mhm.
me think of a guest that going beyond NARM, Samantha Garcia uh, Pinell, I believe was her
Mhm.
name,
Mhm.
and from Arizona, I believe,
Yeah.
who works with post incarceration, particularly with women, and it's always a population that I feel strong advocacy for because. I know not everyone who goes through the prison system, the criminal justice system, does rehabilitate themselves, but a high percentage of people really take it seriously and get their education, get basic vocational skills, start giving back to the community in different ways, and then it becomes really problematic when they come back into society. Not to mention, the social stigma associated with it, but just the basic realities of how do they um, deal with all the different levels of trauma and come back into their life. And many of them, she talked about, are mothers who have children. And so they have to kind of create repair with their families and with their children. And that's, very painful, difficult work to do. And um, I just feel like, every society is only, as strong as the most vulnerable members of the society. And so when people are coming back from rehabilitating, I wish there was better resources and more resources. And so it's great to know organizations like she's part of that are trying to bring more trauma-informed care to the many levels of care that they're giving to the women that they work with.
Yeah. Yeah, that conversation really touched me. She brought, again, just so much of her story and was so open about her experience, and the way that she's working with women to support them through that process that you just named was just so touching to me. Really felt that in my heart, and her excitement to share that, and you know, I guess an invitation for all of us to look at ways that we can support in some way these folks who really need support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which speaks to another kind of marginalized, population. Brianna Wu was on. I'm a big fan of Brianna's work, and, although her work has been focused more politically and social justice, she has a very trauma-informed lens that she looks through, and learning about the work that she does to support, trans folks that in ways that are very humanizing and ways that are hopefully very supportive, not just to trans folks, but to their families and to our community that is needing to find a way to include the humanity of all of its citizens and individuals. And I just really appreciate the way that she holds such kind of a, I don't know, she holds so much complexity in the way she thinks it through
Yeah.
things. And in our society, things are so fragmented and so polarized. And I talk a lot about how in my trainings about how like we go very quickly from being three-dimensional to one-dimensional. It's like we collapse complexity and try to make things into very right or wrong or black and white solutions. And I really appreciated her ability to hold these super complex multitudes and still find hope in supporting people from all different kind of backgrounds and life experiences and identities.
Yeah, in that conversation, what really stood out to me was I felt like I could ask some hard questions that I had been wondering that I wasn't sure how it would land with anyone, but because of her openness and her willingness to sit with some of those questions, really, it was just so nice to feel like I could, learn from someone in such a different experience that I hadn't maybe known where I could ask some of those questions. So I really appreciate Brianna and the work that she's doing for sure.
Yeah, I know from following her work that she very much values inclusive conversations and not kind of, canceling people for making mistakes or not
Yeah.
knowing the right answers. And I also super appreciate that because I think to live in a world with so much difference, we have to find ways to communicate across those differences. And I don't think we're doing a great job right now, at least in the United States society. Um, and I know part of transforming trauma is about how we can have these conversations that do get to more complex or even taboo subjects, and have them in human ways, so we can really kind of orient around our shared humanity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, that leads me to it. We had a number of people this year. Um, Not exactly a taboo subject, although some would consider it in psychology, which is around spirituality.
Mhm.
And I really was excited for David Rosemarin, who talked about his connections paradigm, which is very aligned with the work we've created in space this year, the space program through CTTC, which is really kind of the direction I'm really passionate about going further into, which is really helping therapists deepen into these three levels of the human experience: connection to self, connection to others, and connection to something larger than ourselves or something collective. And he was taking us through this ancient Jewish teachings about what he calls the connections paradigm and how he's been bringing this into psychology. And so that was kind of, I think, maybe the first of us in a series of several folks that brought in. Megan brought in Jungian psychology,
Mhm.
which was really cool. Um, Viktor Frankl's grandson, Alexander Vesely, brought in um, this conversation around self-transcendence and self-actualization. So I don't know about you, but all those conversations were so rich.
Yes. Yes. So rich. In fact, Alex Vaselli, am I saying his name correctly?
I think so.
Um, I listened to that one at least 3 times, I think, because it
Mm.
it really, I don't know, it brought up some things that I hadn't considered before. So, yeah, I really, really appreciated his all of their work. And Megan Holmes, like you mentioned, that was a really um, deep conversation for me. Again, had me walking away thinking about things maybe in some different ways. So, yeah, very cool.
I mean, I think the last one that really kind of jumps out at me, talking about big names in the trauma field, is having Dr. Judith Herman back
Mhm.
again. I was very touched. She's kind of at the last stage of her career here, and she's not taking a lot of appointments anymore or scheduling presentations or anything. So the fact that she was willing to come back on, I think she even shared that she was recording it from a
An
nursing
assisted
center,
living.
assisted
Mhm.
living
Yeah,
center.
she lives
Yeah.
in assisted living now.
Yeah, so the fact that here she is in her mid to late 80s and still willing to depart her wisdom and all of her
Mhm.
experience, came out with a new book recently.
Mhm.
And, she is going down as one of the most important figures in the trauma field over the last, since psychology's been around, basically. She's in the top. And to be able to listen to your conversation with her and take the wisdom from her is just phenomenal.
Mhm. Yeah, I recently re-listened to that one because, it's always so timely to listen to Judith, but there were some specific things that I was trying to remember that we had talked about, and listening to it again, I just remember feeling, and I'm feeling it again in this moment, the gratitude of the work that her mother did and how she allowed herself to be impacted by that, and then how her mother was open to Judith's progress and actually some things that Judith brought up. Her mom kind of took to her own research and kind of came to some different conclusions. So that was really cool to hear about kind of this generational, bi-directional relationship happening, and just really feeling so grateful for all the women that have come before me that I'm standing on shoulders, learning from. I just really appreciate Judith and the work that she continues to do. She's still involved in projects. I know she's working on another project with a colleague right now. So really cool stuff happening still.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like an honor to have her. And you're right. I mean, she's such an influential person for female psychologists, and just very inspirational.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the last thing I wanted to kind of reflect on is just, it hasn't come out yet while we're recording this, but I know there's going to be me, Stephanie, and Marcia reflecting on our space program. This is the first year we created this new program. It's been in the works in our vision for years. And it took a while for us to kind of get to a place where we were ready to kind of put it together. And for those of you that aren't familiar with SPACE, it stands for Supporting Presence, Awareness, Connection, and Embodiment for therapists. And it really was created through, over 100 years between the three of us in this profession as psychotherapists, and realizing that all these clinical trainings are just so useful and so important. And there's a commonality underneath them all, that it's relational work. And we just don't get a lot of support or training in the person that is doing all these different clinical modalities. Some don't talk about it at all, and some give a little bit of guidance and instruction, but none are that I'm aware of are solely focused on what we call the intersubjective process, which is how do we as therapists become more fully connected to our humanity, so that we can create more space and presence and capacity to hold the humanity of our clients. And that goes underneath any of the different clinical trainings that we learn how to practice. So it's just been so much further than our expectations could have ever gone. We had no idea what it was going to be like, and the group of people that have joined us this year, including yourself, it's just been incredible. I don't want to speak for anyone besides myself, but every class keeps on getting better, richer, and depthful, and it's stimulated so many new ideas for us for next year and the years following. And it's great to see kind of a group that's continuing to deepen in together, because it creates more safety in our community, in our group. So anyways, we'll be reflecting on that in an episode coming up here soon. And that's just always an opportunity. These are some of my closest people in my life, Marcia and Stephanie. And so having a chance to talk with you at the end of the year is always something I look forward to.
Yeah. Thank you, Brad. Me too. This is always just so rich to sit and reflect on all of these conversations and the work that's happening in CTTC, and all the connections that I'm getting to make. And I have gotten to participate in SPACE and meeting lots of cool folks, and some folks that haven't been through NARM trainings, they're in other models. So I've really appreciated that, that folks are understanding this work is for all of us. It doesn't matter what model we're using. So that's been really cool to meet folks that are just coming in for the first time and really enjoying the work alongside them.
Yeah. It's the universal. Our humanity, there's no one pathway to deepening into our humanity. No religious or spiritual or psychological tradition owns humanity. So we get to have all these really cool ways of exploring our deeper humanity. And it's been so fun. I can't wait to next year. And yeah, thank you for your part of it. And also just a big shout out to you for, being such an incredible host here. I get a lot of feedback, both from people who have been on and then just listeners about how much they appreciate you and your questions and your just the spirit that you bring. And I'm so happy and excited and proud of us for continuing to put this really great resource out into the world. So thank you for all the heart and care that you put into it.
Thank you so much, Brad. I really appreciate that. It means a lot.
Yeah. And also just want to shout out also our team. We got a nice support
Absolutely.
team.
Mhm.
And we've gone through a transition in our production team this year. And so we're still getting our feet under us, but hopefully we'll continue to bring some new cool things to the podcast next year. And if people who are listening have suggestions, we're always open to new guests or new ideas. We really want this to be a free resource that people can use and share and learn from and grow with. So, yeah, you can reach out to us, and we'd love to continue to take in the feedback.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Brad, for taking the time. I know you're a busy man, and so we get to carve out this time at the end of every year, and I always really enjoy it. So thanks for joining.
Yeah, looking so forward to our guests. No one knows besides us at this point, but we got some great guests next year.
Yes.
So I'm really excited about that. So thank you.
Me too.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us for today's episode. To find more information about our guest, check the show notes or visit us at complextraumatrainingcenter.com/transforming trauma. You can also connect with us in other ways. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. As a mental health professional, your commitment to healing and growth inspires us. We at the Complex Trauma Training Center are committed to supporting you in your well-being and success. That's why we are honored to invite you to our Space Program 2026, an inner development program of support and self-discovery for therapists on the personal, interpersonal, and transpersonal levels. Running over 6 online sessions in 2026, this interactive experiential learning program is designed to support self-care and self-discovery for therapists exploring internally, relationally, and transpersonally. CTTC faculty will welcome you into a professional community of therapists that are seeking to create greater effectiveness and resilience in our professional lives. As CTTC faculty Brad Kammer says, the intent is that this program will help us not only become more effective therapists, but also love our work more. Please visit complextraumatrainingcenter.com and secure your spot in the 2026 Space Program. Thanks to Rig for producing and editing, to Tori Essex for our album art, and to Brad Kammer for the creation of this podcast. We look forward to building community and connection with you and changing the world by transforming trauma.